everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube. I'm coming to you on this Wednesday, August 19th, 2020 with an update video. Yep, I am back. It's been over a month, but we're not going into it. I hope everybody's doing well. I would like to take a second here to say welcome. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for sticking with me through my inconsistencies this year. Sorry about it. But I appreciate you nonetheless. And if you are a new viewer, then thank you for coming to visit. I hope that you like what you have to see here. This is a channel that's mostly about cross stitch, though I talk about some life stuff. And I talk about some knitting and some books on occasion, as and when they are relevant. AKA when I work on some knitting, which hasn't happened for months, and when I finish a book, which is rare these days. Anyway, so that's kind of what you can expect on my videos. This week I have got a month's worth of works in progress, including a new start or two. And then I also have some stash and some plans, but we'll get there and we'll talk about it. I did finish a book in the recent couple of weeks, but I would like to be able to speak coherently about this book. And the last time that I tried to describe it to the some gals on Virtual Stitchers, I mucked it up so bad. So like I just didn't make it sound like it was a good book at all, and it was wonderful. So I'm going to work on my thoughts and try to talk about that the next time that I talk to you guys. I have some other books that I recently acquired that I would like to tell you about. But I will just save that for another conversation. Save that for another week. So yeah. So like I said, it's been about a month. And a lot has happened in that month, and also not a lot. I watched a video from Kate over at Big Apple Stitching, and she said, "Is it April?" And I'm starting to feel that a little bit. First of all, here in Virginia, it's rained for the last probably 3 weeks. It is giving me that Pacific Northwest vibe that I don't get and wish that I did. It's rained so much that we have wild mushrooms growing in my backyard and my front yard, and that just doesn't happen. It is cooler here for the last few days and for the next few days than it is in the Pacific Northwest, which is also very bizarre. Very bizarre. I'm going to eat my words. Here in a few days, we're going to have this heat wave that you guys out west are dealing with. But hey. Let's see what else has happened. I just want to address my last video, my last update video, I should say. Thank you to everybody who had nice things to say or kind things to say, who sort of are in agreement with me. I appreciate that. To those of you who had less than savory things to say, I guess that says more about you than it does about me. And we're going to leave it at that. Black Lives Matter. And the cops who shot Breonna Taylor still have not been brought to justice. And I'm having a hard time with that. My do something, sort of my instinct to do something is like foaming at the mouth. But what to do, really, to help that situation along is like I got nothing. So anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, what else has happened? There's something else. I should have notes, but I don't. My 7-year FlossTube anniversary was at the beginning of August. 7 years. 7. Isn't that weird? 7 years of these videos. That's wild. And so if you've been with me since day one, you are the real MVPs. That's impressive. I appreciate you guys. I would like to do a something special to celebrate 7 years, but we're going to have to hold off on that until my next video. I also learned today that I'm going to have a hard time saying this out loud. There are over 6,000 of you subscribed to my channel. 6,000. 6,000. That's mind-boggling. That's like 10% of what can sit at Lane Stadium at Virginia Tech. That's wild. And so thank you for that. That's really cool. I never imagined 7 years ago, FlossTube, I mean, you know, it wasn't even FlossTube. It wasn't even called that. That name was created a few months later, maybe a year later. And there were maybe like 40 of us like watching cross-stitch videos, not more than a couple handfuls of people actually making videos. So to see that number 6,000, wow, thanks guys. You're so good. So cool. So yeah, we got to do something special, some kind of giveaway. And so I will endeavor to get that figured out for to start up my next video. So thanks guys. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's all of the preamble-y things. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. It's not. Strike that. Reverse it. Okay, YouTube. YouTube recently rolled out the ability to put ads. If your channel is monetized, you can put ads in the middle of your video, even if it's less than 10 minutes. And I think that when they rolled that out, there was a glitch. Because at about the same time, a check mark somewhere in YouTube Studio was checked, and there are ads in the middle of every single one of my videos over the last 7 years. I haven't checked this in a few days, so maybe that's been fixed. But every single one. And I swore that if I was going to monetize this channel, you were not going to have ads in the middle. Because personally, that drives me crazy. I can't stand it. We have a DVR because I don't like watching ads. So, yeah, I had no interest in putting the ads in the middle of my videos. However, I also have no interest in going back and fixing it on each one of my past videos individually. There's like 240 of them. No. So I did fix the most recent two, my last update, as well as my 2020 mid-year recap. So I did fix those so that there aren't any more ads in the middle. And I have found the box that I needed to uncheck so that all future videos won't have those automatically stuck in. So my channel is monetized, but the ads will only be at the beginning and at the very end, and that only usually happens when I remember to update that, but yeah. So I just wanted to address that. I'm sorry if you went to watch one of those videos and you were like, Jess, there's an ad every 3 minutes on this hour-long video. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't me. Wasn't me. So I have to do some more searching around the new YouTube Studio to try to find the uncheck box that I need to remove those from all of my past videos. Otherwise, they're just going to be there because they're backlog videos, and it's going to take me forever and a year to fix all of them. So there's that. One last thing before I start showing you some actual cross stitch here, and that is with regards to the comment sections on my last two videos. I'm pretty terrible, and I haven't gone through and clicked the heart or the like on your comments on the last two videos, and I haven't replied to any. I have read absolutely every single one that has come through. I so love reading your comments. I have got to be a better person and get better at replying. And so in the next few days, I intend to sit down and really go through the comments. I was going to do it here real fast before this video, but you guys take the time to comment, so I should take the time to read and reply. So anyway, I just wanted to address that. I have read your comments, and I appreciate you guys, and yeah, I will be better. Okay, let's switch over and let's talk about some works in progress. And I'm doing things a little bit differently moving forward. I'm going to try not to do solid dividers. So here we go. Straight on into whips. Of course, I just get done saying that I would like to sort of film this all in one shot, no dividers anymore, and then sneeze. Anyway, so let's talk about some projects. And we're going to start off with a couple of new starts. So actually, both of these new starts are not recent. I started them a couple months ago and never told you guys. So the first one, this is something that I have wanted to make for so many years, just a really long time. And I've been slowly kitting it up for the last 3 years, which is a long time. I don't think I ever talked to you guys about it. I don't think I ever told you what this project was. Kind of kept it close to my chest until it came to fruition and I could talk more about it. This is it's a long-term project, a very long-term project. It's going to take me quite a few years to do this one. So I think I started it towards the end of April, and I can't remember which day it was specifically. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what day it was, but who cares? It was a long time ago. So I thought I would go ahead and show it to you now. So it's kind of a mystery. The preview image that I have, it's, what's the expression that Bendy uses? There's not a lot to go on. It's nothing to go on, actually. It's a really terrible preview. I think that I'm going to have part 1 finished. I'm hoping to have part 1 done in January. So yeah, this is gonna be a long-term project. Yeah. What else did I want to say? Okay, well, let me go ahead and show you the preview image. Oh. I have rehearsed that in my head for the last, I don't know, 3 months for how I was going to tell you guys. So this here is, I'm not stitching anything. But I am nonetheless making something, I guess. And it is a make-along because I needed Danny's help. So this is Baby Does Stuff. Baby Does Stuff is due at the end of January. And this picture is terrible. It's so bad. I thought that I was 10 weeks when I went in for my first prenatal. But after the dating on this day, I found out that I was only about 8 weeks at that point. So there's just not much to see at 8 weeks. But you can see that there's the closest thing to resembling a person. A teeny tiny little itty bitty person, but nonetheless. So yeah. So we went in for my first prenatal in the middle of June. And we couldn't get a heartbeat on the Doppler, which is not uncommon for that early. It's not uncommon. And especially in this situation because they were tucked so far back that no Doppler was going to be able to get there. So I went in the next day for an ultrasound. And so that's how we got this first picture. It's terrible. I am looking forward to some better pictures, to have a better idea of what this person might look like. A better idea, So yeah, this is something that we've been working on for a very long time. Without going into too many details, we have battled with undiagnosed infertility since September of 2017. Yeah, it's been a long, not fun, heartbreaking kind of journey. We were getting ready to go to a fertility clinic for some more advanced intervention. As of last fall, we had the barest minimum. I had done the insane amount of blood work that they required, and Danny did too. And so we did sort of the preliminary things that you do at a fertility clinic. And then last fall, Danny got sick. And so we were not trying to pursue any sort of advanced treatments. And so we put this on hold for a little while. And then New Year came around and Thor got sick. And so I didn't know what was going to happen with my first baby. And so we weren't in a position to try to make a human baby. So fertility stuff was put on hold again. And then COVID. And my fertility clinic effectively shut down for, obviously, pregnant moms and women who were receiving active treatment were still getting treatment. But, we had to hold off. So I got the email that they were opening back up to their prospective patients. And I wasn't really a prospective patient, but I hadn't started anything yet. So, I didn't even have a diagnosis as to what the holdup is at this point. But I got the email that they were opening back up, and then 2 weeks later, here we are, which is just amazing. You hear stories all the time of women who stopped trying, couples who have stopped trying, and then just like that. There was a guy that Danny used to work with who they had the shots to begin IVF, and she took one last test before she decided to really get it started, and pregnant natural, just out of the blue, totally healthy baby. It's unexplained sometimes, and that was certainly the case for us. So here we are. As far as the pregnancy goes, we are currently very healthy, both of us. I had my 16-week appointment last week, so I'm 17 weeks as of yesterday. I had my 16-week appointment last week. We got to hear the heartbeat. Danny got to hear the heartbeat for the first time because COVID times, my initial appointments were further spread out than they would normally, and he wasn't allowed to go to the ultrasound with me, which I think is pretty terrible. But, what are you going to do? I understand it's a health facility, and so we got to keep people safe. So he got to hear the heartbeat for the first time last week, and so everything seems to be tracking normally on that front. Me personally, so far I'm doing good. A couple of things. I failed my glucose test because I was not a small person. Before I got pregnant, I had to do some glucose testing earlier than most, and I failed. So it's going to mean some dietary changes and some adjustments moving forward, and we're just going to have to be really careful about some stuff. But other than that, according to plan, I have an app, and it tells me that this is the symptom that I'm going to have this week, and then sure enough, there's that symptom. Everything else seems to be going on pace, on track, normal, good to go, healthy. I have my next appointment next week where we are going to have the anatomy scan, so I'm going to have some better pictures. Hopefully kiddo will participate and cooperate, and we can find out whether Baby Does Stuff is a boy or a girl. I'm going to keep that information pretty close to home for a little while, and I have yet to determine if I'm going to tell you all Baby's name. I don't know if I'm ready for that or comfortable with that, and I certainly haven't made a decision either way. And so, yeah, so that's gonna stay close to home. To be totally frank with you guys, most of this process is going to stay pretty close to home, and I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot on this channel. This is not a mommy channel, and I know that some of y'all just don't want to hear it. Like, you don't need those details. I get that, totally. And also, I am not unfamiliar to the cost that is associated with going through infertility and hearing pregnancy stories. I know what that costs. And I don't want to cause anybody any hurt. And I know that I was not alone. I know that I had some sisters in that, and I don't want to cause any pain. And so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this as we go through. Obviously, when we get closer to time, then we'll go from there. But yeah, Baby Does Stuff is gonna stay closer to home. I do appreciate all of the well wishes that we have received. I posted on Instagram, I think I said, towards the beginning of August, and I just appreciate you guys so very much. That was a hug that I so needed. I was coming to the end of the first trimester difficulties, and I just needed that hug. Going through this during COVID-19 is equal parts terrifying and also comforting. For instance, comforting in the fact that I could keep this secret because I wasn't going anywhere, but also terrifying because I just don't know what the difficulties COVID might present. And I haven't been able to get hugs like from anybody except my husband. And as a hugger, that's awful. So the comments and the messages that I received after that post, that was a hug, and I just appreciate it. I figured that we could all use a little bit of good news, and this feels like some good news. 2020 is a hard year. It has been a hard year. Every day, I keep telling myself not to be shocked by the news, and every day something is just, okay, 2020, here we go. Yeah, it's been a hard year, and so some good news was definitely called for. Yep. Okay, let's get on to some actual cross stitch, some actual stitching stuff now that we're like a half an hour into this video. All right, related, but not exactly the same. On May 11th, I started this project, and I told nobody about this. Nobody, not a soul. I didn't even tell Danny about it because I started it the day that I got the positive test. And when I got my heart rate back down to normal that day, I was like, I have to commemorate this somehow. You may remember a few days before May 11th, I started Moonflowers by Mirabilia. And I bought that chart and this one at the same time with the intent of stitching them either together or at least framing them together. And then I was able to start it just a few days later, and I don't know, that just, oh, it was so good. So I did barely start this on May 11th, and then I hid it because I didn't tell Danny for about a week. I was trying to figure out how to tell him. So I hid this from Danny. Y'all, I didn't even put it in my spreadsheets. Like, this was like a secret start. So I put in a few stitches to commemorate the day, and then I put it away. This design, I don't know if I said, it's called Crescent Dreams. And it is, so it's customizable so that this blanket either looks pink or blue, which is really cute. And I think this is the blue version here. So that's really cute. So I started in the top with the moon. This has some crystal treasures that I hope are still available. This chart is from 1997, so probably not. But I'll just find some alternates. There's also some silk ribbon embroidery. Not really embroidery, but just some silk ribbon. These stars are kind of attached with some silk sewn in, some silk ribbon. So that is Crescent Dreams, and here is my measly little start. Yep, just a few stitches there. So I got it going. And this is sat in the Q-snap ever since. This fabric is a 32 count Belfast linen in Avalon by Under the Sea Fabrics. And it's the opalescent, which you can probably tell. This fabric I actually picked up while we were at StitchCon in 2018. And yeah, I just thought that it was perfect with the sparkles and the colors, kind of pastel-y. Will kind of go with anything, no matter what we do for baby nursery. And also complementary to the bright blue that I've got moonflowers on. So they will, I mean, they're not identical, certainly, but they'll at least go together-ish. So that's my start on Crescent Dreams. And this project lives in this bag from Stitch and Button, Vicky. I just thought that Thor would have his first protective duty as Big Brother. I would have brought him over here for the video, but you may be able to hear him snoozing hard over there. The sun is coming through his favorite spot, and so he's enjoying him some nap time. So I'll let him have it. Anyway, so that's what that project lives in. So, okay, that is it for the surprises. No more surprises. Okay, let's get on to the things that you know about. So, my last video came in the middle of July, and at the time, I was in the midst of Full Coverage Fanatics Bingo, and I told you guys that I was going to work on In This Moment, and then I was going to kind of bebop around to a bunch of different full coverage designs to try to get my bingo. Well, what ended up happening is I worked on In This Moment for the rest of the month. The thing is, with Kiddo on the way, it has sort of changed my priorities a little bit as far as stitching is concerned. I don't know what next year is going to look like. I can't make predictions on that. And but I have some things that I would really like to keep going or get finished before my whole world changes. So, and In This Moment is like top of that list. And so, yes, I could have worked on the other four or other three HAEDs, I think it was, for 1,000 stitches each. Or I could put all that time into In This Moment, which is my goal. So that's what I decided to do ultimately. So I pulled out In This Moment. And I just worked on it for the rest of July. Now, I have worked on this a few times, and I'm currently working on it now. So the progress you're going to see is not just the July progress. And in fact, you're not even going to be able to see the July progress really, because the page I was working on was page 13, which, if you remember, is the boring one. And now I'm working on page 19, so page 13 is rolled up a little bit. But you'll see the before and afters after. Okay, so go ahead and bring her up. Okay, I'm gonna reach over. So here's page 13, and you know what? Let me. "7 years, you'd think I'd know." Okay, bring those threads down so that y'all can see this. So there's page 13 finished up. And you can see I did get into some interesting stuff. There's a leaf and swirly bits from the vine. And that's about it. Actually, I think that this is one of the last big flowers. It's the top of it. So I got that page finished. And then I came down here to work page 19. And page 19 is almost the complete opposite of page 13, in that there's so much happening in this page. I finished her hair. And when I say I finished her hair, I mean like that's it. Her hair is done. End of an era. Mind-boggling. And then we have the vine, which is going to connect here to down there. And then obviously her arm will probably have some side boob because that's what we got. And the swan, the other swan's neck is in there. Like, how cool is that? So lots of things going on in this page. It makes for some confetti, which makes it stitch a little bit slower, but it's nonetheless, it's a lot of fun to stitch. I like confetti. Y'all know me. So let me just bring it in close for a second so that y'all can see. See how that's going. One thing I did want to address. I know that both Nikki of Nikki Crafts and Kim, who is Spartan Stitcher on Instagram, but she goes by Kim Hollenback here on FlossTube, they talked about using a scroll frame with these full coverage designs. Sorry, I just noticed it just looks kind of weird with my head sitting on top of hers. Anyway, and how if you don't stitch straight across, then things are never going to go into the frame straight on. And that is so true. Because I stitch my pages in the diagonal, stitching, it doesn't warp the fabric necessarily, it doesn't distort it, but it does, the tension of the threads on the fabric pulls things in a little tighter, and so perfectly straight is never, it's never achievable. You may be able to tell over here, but this corner of page 13 is starting to drift down a little bit. And that's because of the stitches rolled up here and the blank fabric that's rolled down in that corner. So yeah, you're never going to be able to get everything straight on. So if you are trying for a perfectly straight full coverage design on a scroll frame, good luck to you. Speaking of scroll frames, one thing I did want to talk to you guys about, I get this question often, and that is, which frame are you using? I'm going to start sticking in a frequently asked questions section in my description box because, like I said, I get this question a lot, and I know that you guys don't want to necessarily ask it all the time, but you're curious anyway. So I thought that I would do that. But to answer it here, this is the Millennium frame. It is by NeedleNeeds, which is a family-owned business based in the UK. All of the pieces are in wood, and it is arguably the best frame I have ever used and will ever use. The tension is even across the board. You can hear how tight it is. It's spectacular. This is a great frame. The company I cannot recommend. I was fortunate. I have 2 of these frames. I have only 1 set of side stretchers, but I have 2 sets of the bars. This is my longer set at 30 inches, so the workable space is 30 inches, and I have a 26. And I was fortunate that I bought them both, or received, I guess, because my first one was a gift, before everything blew up and everybody went out and ordered from them. And so I waited the suggested like 12 weeks, I think, is what it was. So it wasn't very long at all. But I have heard stories of people waiting years, multiple years. And the way that it works is that you give them your money and then you sit there and you wait. And if you're an impatient person, I know that's hard. I mean, we're all impatient. These are not cheap frames, and so you're essentially throwing a chunk of change at the hope that it's going to come in. So I know that that's frustrating for some people, but I have to say that up front because I don't want to lead anybody down a path and them struggle. I have never heard a story where they didn't get their frame ever, but I have heard 2 to almost 3 years for an order, which is a little nuts. There is another frame that makes a similar style, and that company is the Omanique Factory. They are based in Estonia, and their frame is called the Quantum frame. There are some differences between the Millennium and the Quantum frame, and the biggest one is that this part here on the Quantum frame is plastic. It's made of plastic instead of wood. They are, from what I hear, and I don't have one yet, but they are faster, they are better at communicating, and their product is, yeah, it's wonderful from what I hear, from what I understand. So do with that information what you will. I said yet because I would really like to get a Quantum frame. I need a scroll frame that is a little bit longer, and I just don't know if I have the patience. I'm a very patient person, kind of in general, patient and understanding, but I just don't know that I could throw money at another frame and wait 2 years. That just, nope, I just don't think I could do that. But anyway, so that's the frame that I use. It's a Millennium frame from NeedleNeeds in the UK. And I do occasionally use the Q-snap, like you see, but this is pretty much where I'm at. So that is in this moment. She's on my frame currently, and we'll talk more about this here in plans. The fabric here is 25 count cream Lugana from Zweigart, and I stitch all of my full coverage designs 1/1 full cross. So that means 1 strand of floss over 1 fabric thread, and I do a full X. So just thought that I would go ahead and explain that, just in case somebody was wondering. Sometimes I rattle off these terms expecting or assuming that you guys know, and I know that's not always the case. So let me go ahead and set this down and we'll talk about some other stuff. In this moment took me through the end of August, and then, took me through the end of July, and then we were into August. So August is Arbitrary August. Arbitrary August is an event that was created by Stitch and Mommy a couple years ago, in which you basically work on your whips randomly. And when that event first came about, we all kind of started learning about and using a lot the Tiny Decisions app, or the Decision Roulette if you're an Android user. So we all kind of started using that. A lot of people did anyway. And so the original premise is that every day you spin a wheel or you pick a project out of a hat or some form or fashion of randomization, and you work on that WIP for that day and then do it again for the rest of the month. A fun way to switch up what you're working on and also get to like 31 projects. One day is not enough for me. It has never been enough. It's one of my biggest struggles when it comes to Stitch Mania. One day is not enough. This year, I decided to stretch it out to 3 days. And the primary reason for that is that getting up and down off the floor, which if you've ever been at a retreat with me, maybe you've seen me climb down on the floor to get my projects on the frames. That's really difficult right now. That's not really something that I'm all about. So a few more days progress, but also less having to sit on the floor and then try to figure out how to get back up. So my plan was to do 3 days on an arbitrary August piece and alternate those with 3 days on In This Moment. My WIPCO projects for the month of August are Portuguese Bird Sampler by Barbara Anna and In This Moment 10K. I have already reached the 10K goals. I have surpassed 50,000 stitches in This Moment this year, which is pretty cool. Train of thought. Full stop. What's that meme from Modern Family? I have 2 brains in me, and I have never been more dumb. Okay, that helped actually. So those were my 2 WIPCO projects for the month, and I am still pretty far behind on In This Moment. Having not worked on her at all in June, I'm pretty far behind on my 100K goal, so I wanted to be sure that she got some time here in August. So, all of that. The first project that I worked on in August was actually neither of those things. So Vicky from Reading and Stitching and I, we decided to have a little Paula Vaughan sale, and I have been craving working on this project. So I was happy to have a little stitch along with her. She is furiously working on her May quilt from the same book. The book is the Quilts for All Seasons book, put out by Leisure Arts, and obviously all designed by Paula Vaughan. And there's a different quilt for each month of the year. I ripped my book up, I chopped it up just to make it a little easier to work from. So this is the August quilt. And I was so excited to work on this. This goes against everything that I am into. I like full coverage stuff. I like Halloween, the more macabre things. This just goes against everything that I should be into, or it just goes against what I think I'm into. If somebody was to ask me what my favorite kind of project is, a quilt, a very sort of country picturesque design is just not the first thing that I would say. But I love this. I love this so much. And I had the hardest time putting it down. So I worked on this for 3 days. And I am just so happy with the progress. And y'all, I worked on the most boring, there's no reason for me to be this excited about this project. But nonetheless, I was having a ball working on it. And I really enjoyed it. So when I pulled this out, I hadn't worked on it since, I think 2018, I think was the last time I worked on this. And at the time, I had from the shutter over done this way. So all of that was done. And this little bit here of the quilt, that was done previously. And then I had some of the siding done, but very little when I pulled this out most recently. So let me go ahead and fold in a little bit so that y'all can see the progress that I made here. I loved this so much. I can't explain it. Can't explain it, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So you can see the, oh, what's that called? What's that called? Sort of the post. That's not really it. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it's called. And like I said, I don't have a brain. I have two, but zero. Anyway, so I stitched that, and I brought the siding down. The hand railing on the front of the porch is here, so that's kind of my stopping point there. And I even got in some color and started in on the leaves. This was so much fun. I just enjoy stitching on this. And like I said, I had a very hard time putting it down. Very difficult. So, c'est la vie. So I did. I put it down. I worked on it for 3 days, and that was it for now. My arbitrary August is actually unfinished whip go. So I pointed out to you guys on my whip go board sort of what I could expect might come up here in August. And so my intention was to give them all 3 days apiece. This one, however, I only needed to give 2 days, but I ended up giving it 3 anyway. And that is living in this gorgeous bag from Diddly Daddle Designs. Very pretty. And this is Have Faith by Cottage Garden Samplings. And this is from the Songbird's Garden series. I get asked quite often where this needle minder came from. And that one came from Mad for Minders on Etsy. I will link her shop down below. However, I don't believe that this Blue Jay one is available anymore. I could be mistaken. I haven't looked very recently, but I think that when I bought it, it was the only one that was available at the time. But like I said, I'll link her shop below. You guys can check it out. So that is what that will look like finished. Kind of. Because I changed the faith, the word faith there, towards the top to family. And some of the more astute among you recognized that I was in the family way. and that's very true. But I mean, also the reasons that I gave last time when I talked about this are why I switched it to family. So as you can see, I stitched another of the bluebells, and then I brought the vine down, and I got started on the big leaf, and that's the one that the house is sitting on, so that big leaf there. Now, something that's really important, if you decide to embark on a change like this, what's that expression? Something about copying is the best form of flattery. If you want to swap faith for family, one thing that you have to know is that the Y dips down. And so what I did is I left the word right where it is, and I shifted this branch down 2 stitches, just 2 stitches. There is a section here where it's just a lot of the same. 2 stitches of this color, 1 of this color, 1 of this color, and then 1 stitch of the last or something like that. So I just took out 2 rows there. So it just means that this branch right here was shifted down to accommodate the Y here. And so that was just something that I had to be able to do there. And nothing else will change because it's just this bow here that just had to come down a little bit. There is that. This fabric is 32 count Belfast in vintage cedar plank by Lakeside Linens. And I am using the DMC conversion that Vinny provides. I'm also not going to fill in that F because I like the negative space. So that's what I got to. So this project is on my Whipco board, and the goal was 5 days. I ended up giving it 6. And so that is done. And this will go away until next year. So then my next Cottage Garden Samplings project was supposed to come out from there, and that is Promise of Spring, which I started earlier this year. However, my goal for my new starts is 2,000 stitches, and so technically that one went away already because I have already accomplished that goal. So Merry and Bright, which I started during Stitch Mania, is now an active WIP and something that I can work on and, you know, whatnot. I did about 700 stitches on that in May, so I can work on that for another 1,300, and then this will come back out. So that's kind of how that would work. Here's how the sequence went, if it matters. Maybe it doesn't, but anyway. August quilt for 3 days. In this moment for 3 days. Have faith for 3 days. In this moment for a few days. I missed a day of stitching. There was a no stitch day in there somewhere. Anyway, so after in this moment, I spun the wheel again. And this time it pulled up my Flowers of the Month by Ellen Moore-Stroh. I'll insert a preview here of what this will look like finished. I am stitching all 12. As is the case, every time I show you guys this project, it is linked in the description box below because this is a free series that was put out by Ellen Moore-Stroh, I believe, in 2010. So feel free to check that out if you are into it. This is one of my more well-loved projects, so yeah, check that out. My Whipco goal for this project this year is 5 flowers more than what I had, so essentially getting me through October. And earlier this year, I stitched June's Sweet Pea. So this go around, I got started on row 3, and I started July's Larkspur, which is gorgeous and a lot more time consuming than the previous blocks have been. This fabric is a 32 count Belfast in cream from Zweigart. Just a plain fabric. And these are all done in DMCs. This one has the most number of colors than I have seen in the series so far. Because this Larkspur here is of the lighter variety, and this one is a little bit darker blues. It's more like royal blues. So it's a little different. Larkspur is also called Delphinium, so there's that. I stitched these as charted. The only thing that I change is, and you can see it up here with Sweet Pea, I insert the name of the flower underneath, just because I need it there, so I know what it is. In the future, when I have this finished and on my wall, I can talk about it knowingly. And I use, for each of those names, I use the darkest thread in the flower color. So it will be a deep dark blue for this one once I get there. My goal was to finish this flower in 3 days, and I don't know what I was thinking because I stitch so much slower these days than I used to. I'm more easily distracted, and I usually have to take a nap, let's be real. And so, yeah, I don't stitch as fast as I used to. So it was very silly thinking on my part. But I got a fair bit done. The flowers of the lighter one is done. I haven't done the centers of the flowers yet, and I also haven't finished the leafy bits. So a little more ways to go on that the next time that I work on it. I'm not going to do before and afters on this one because it was blank fabric before, and now it's not. So you can see the progress that I made. I can point it out very easily. So that is my Flowers of the Month currently. Oh, it's really gorgeous. I do love this whip. This is a fun project. Yeah, it's a good one. So then I went back to In This Moment for a few days and spun the wheel again. And the next chart that was pulled, or the next project that was pulled, was actually not a Whip Go project, but it was something that I wanted to work on this month, along with Anne of Fiber Floss and Fiction. We both share this whip, and she was like, let's stitch on it around the same time in August. And I was like, okay, cool. I will let you know when my wheel pulls it, and we'll go from there. So that's what happened. We stitched on it. I stitched on mine for the last 3 days, ending yesterday. Technically, my goal for this project for the year was a page finish. And I had already reached that in July. But I had also wanted to work on this in August to work on it seasonally, sort of alongside the relevant season here in the Northern Hemisphere. So it worked out just very nicely. So I pulled this out. The artist is Sandy Orton. You can get this from the Kooler Designs website. I will link it in the description box below as a PDF or a print copy. So there's that. And this is also on a 32 count cream Belfast linen from Zweigart. And here is where I got to. When I pulled this out, I had the dilemma. Do I come over here and work on page 2, which is already started because technically like a fair chunk of this is in page 2. Or do I come down here and I had a whole bunch of parked threads down there in the bottom. So it was a matter of, do I work those parked threads that I had all right here or the page 2? I decided on this one, obviously. And I made some fairly good progress for just a couple of days. My big goal was to get the watermelon banner done. Excuse me. But I didn't get the backstitch done. I was not in the mood for backstitch. So I didn't do any backstitch. That's why you see these park threads here just kind of in the middle of nowhere. Those are backstitch colors. So I finished up the watermelon banner. I finished up the ladybugs, although it looks like one of my knots have come loose, so I'm going to have to fix that. This last one that I did, I had very little thread to work with, and I did colonial knots for these. Let me see if I can bring it in close so you guys can see that. Yeah, so I did colonial knots instead of French knots because I was having a hard time. My French knots kept slipping. They weren't big enough. So I switched to a colonial knot, which is super easy. Easier to do than a French knot. You just have to remember the order in which to do it. Anyway, so, but that last one, my thread was too short. It was too short to try to do one, and I tried to make it work, and it didn't. So I'm going to have to go through and fix that. But I wasn't in the mood. I just felt like stitching. So I came over here and I finished up the blueberries. Super cute. There's like 7 colors in there, which is a little nuts. But anyway. And then I came down here and started working on the sunflower. I was on Virtual Stitchers the other night, and I asked them, I said, do you guys think I should work on the sunflower or the banner that says summertime and the living is easy? Here, I'll pull that up so y'all can see what I'm talking about. And honestly, I don't know why I asked anybody anything, because I knew what their answer was going to be. Of course it would be the sunflower. It's so much prettier than, than that banner. Ugh, so silly. So I went with their suggestion and I started working on the sunflower. And I love it. It's gorgeous. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This stitch is just so much fun. I just enjoy working on it all the time. Every time I work on it, I'm in a good place. And this time was definitely no different. So there is that. And I finished up yesterday and begrudgingly put it away. Something I get asked about this project rather often is to see the back, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the back here. I was most recently asked this question, I think it was on Instagram, but I'm going to show you here, and then maybe I'll add it to my Instagram post this evening. So I'll show you the back. Fair warning, there's a ton of backstitch in this. There's like 87 different colors. That's probably exaggerating, but only very slightly. And so the back on this is not, it's nothing special. I also had an incident. Something went really wonky with my stitching in the tomato, so yeah. So there's the back. Yeah, it's organized chaos. We'll go with that. So that is my summer sampler. And this project will go away for the rest of the year. And when I posted that on Instagram yesterday, y'all went up in arms. Very disappointed in me that I'm not going to continue with this year. But I've got more goals than time. That always seems to be the case with me, and it's especially true nowadays. I have more goals than time. I have started working on a list of some things that I would like to progress much further on and or finish before the end of January next year, before my stitchy time plummets, and this is not on that list. This is not on that list. I can probably talk more about that list some other time. I've got to reevaluate. We have, what, 6 months till then? Less than? There's no way that I'm going to accomplish everything on that list. It's so silly. There's no way. So I have to prioritize. And this is going to be a multi-year project, regardless of whether I prioritize it or not. It's just going to take me a long time to stitch this. It's big. It's a big design. The camp sign is full coverage. This summer banner is full coverage. Full coverage. Full coverage. The what I call the Babe and Wilbur banner, full coverage. There is a lot going on here. And this is just going to take a long time. I think even the blanket is, the cherries on the blanket, that's full coverage. This project is going to take a long time to stitch, and I just can't make it a high priority. So there's that. Plus, I am really excited to get to work on the autumn sampler. And I know that you guys will be momentarily appeased when I get that pulled out and I get to work on it starting in September. I'm going to try to work on that after, let me think, what's the first day of fall here? It's like the 21st, I think, of September. So I'm going to work on that at some point after the 1st of fall. So you guys can, I don't know, get a little bit more cooler design. Because I know this is another one of those projects that is one of my most well-loved by viewers and people who peek at my Instagram. So that is it for the works in progress. Like I said, I'm working on in this moment now. So let's kind of talk about some plans. It's arbitrary August. And so if I stick to the plan, I have to spin the wheel on, what's today, Wednesday? So Saturday. I have to spin the wheel on Saturday. Is today Wednesday? Yes, it is. Okay. Oh. Yeah, okay, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is supposed to be in this moment. And then I spin the wheel on Saturday. So Danny spun the wheel for me this morning. I like to kind of have an idea of what's coming up next, so that if I'm working on insert stitchy event here, then I can try to work that project into it. And what he spun, I was like, I don't really want to. I don't really want to work on that. It's one of my WIPCO projects. It's something that I haven't worked on since 2018. It's a project that is going to be so much fun. It's my Around the World in 80 Stitches by Papillon Creations. So there's a bunch of specialty stitches. Like, this should be everything that I am into and want to work on, and I just don't. I really just don't. And I think the reason for that is going back to this conversation about this list of things that I want to progress and get done, at least before the end of the year. That's not on that list either. So I'm thinking about it. I may just stick within this moment for the rest of the month. I may arbitrarily decide to go monogamous. Yeah, I mean, in this moment, it's high priority to have finished next year. And if I'm going to make that a reality, I've got to get as far along on it as I can, as quickly as I can. And currently, I'm behind on my 100K goal. I came into the month of August about 3,000 stitches behind, I think is what it amounted to be. So yeah, I'm running behind here. No, it wasn't quite that much. It was 2,500. Regardless. So I'm behind on that goal, and I have the drive and the reason and the want to get as far along this year as I possibly can, to try to get that finished next year. I have 10 Heaven and Earth designs on the go right now. 10. And I just would really like a finish. And this one I'm so excited to have framed and up on my walls. And I love working on it. So yeah, so I think I may be working on in this moment through the end of the month. I may be saying that now and then tomorrow change my mind, but currently it's in this moment for the rest of August. September and October. So let's talk about those 2 months. September is Sampler September, or Sampler Soiree September, something like that. September Sampler Soiree, something to that effect, for which I absolutely intend to participate. I'm gonna format that very much like I did this month. 3 days on a sampler, 3 days on in this moment. 3 days on a sampler, 3 days on in this moment. The Hope Sampler is going to be my primary sampler until it's finished. So what I think I may do is Hope Sampler in this moment, Hope Sampler in this moment, and kind of bounce back and forth between the two until Hope Sampler is finished, and then spin a true wheel on the rest of my samplers. I think that I could finish Hope Sampler in about 6 days. So I think it works out to a total of 5 sampler rotations in the month of September. Is that right? Yeah, half the month. So I think there's a very real possibility that I could get to at least 3 more. So that's, I think, is going to be my plan for September. October is going to be a very similar situation. October is Dark October stitching. And in this moment is neither a sampler, nor arbitrary, nor dark stitching. But I don't need to say it again. And so in October, I think I'm going to do 2-day rotations because I have so much Dark October stitching, so much that I want to get to, that I want to be able to work on. I have a new start planned or two. So yeah, I think I'm going to do smaller rotations in October. It will mean having to figure out how to get up and down off the floor. But, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Maybe I'll put my Q-snap to use or something. So anyway, so that's the plan in October. I am going to still work on in this moment in October because I got to keep going. And then we'll see what November and December bring. It's so weird to talk about this crazy year and to think that we might actually get to the end of it. I know that I shouldn't say that here in the middle of August, but New Year's Eve is coming, I guess, if you listen to the calendar. So anyway, so that's kind of some plans coming up here. I wanted to go monogamous on In This Moment in September and do like I did a few years ago where I got like 3 pages done in the month, but my samplers need some love, and more specifically my Hope sampler. That is something that's high on the list that I want finished before baby does stuff. So so that's that. Okay, let's talk about some haul. And I have just a few things here that I want to show you. Okay, first up in some new stash, I've got my nest egg, and I'm not going to go through each of these individually because I've watched, I think, 3 FlossTubes this week where they did, so you don't need another. But I get from Trisha at 3L Threads, I get 10 5-yard skeins of Gentle Art sampler threads, and if you're in her nest egg, she's got a ton of options. A ton of different companies and sizes of your subscription and whatnot. And this is just a happy package that I get every month or so. This one was especially happy because it came with walnut, which is incredibly hard to track down. I think I have 1 skein of this otherwise, and it's one of those threads that I've wanted for like 4 projects, and so I just bounced the same skein around 4 projects. You know, if I worked on more variety, then that would happen. Anyway, so love those gassed. Forest Glade is one of my favorite gas colors, I think, ever. Yeah, so with her nest egg, when you join wherever she is in the alphabet. And so if you were to join the Gast subscription now, then you would be in the Fs right along with us, the E's and Fs, right along with everybody else. I have officially started overlapping, and I've decided that I'm just going to keep going because I always find use for Gast. I love these threads. Of the big dyers, so to speak, Classic Colorworks, Gast, and Weeks Dye Works, Gast is easily my favorite. So if I double up and triple up, so be it. I'm not going to be mad about that. So there's the Gast. This go around. For not going through those individually, that sure took a while. Cassie Stitches was doing she was making some project bags, and a portion of the proceeds were benefiting the Child Rescue Coalition, which essentially works to stop, hinder, get in the way of, make complicated child trafficking. And so I jumped on an opportunity for one of these project bags because A, it's adorable, and B, it's benefiting a worthy cause. And so here is the project bag. Isn't it? I mean, it's everything. It's just so adorable. And so there it is on the back. And there were sort of 2 options for this fabric. You could either do the magenta or fuchsia color, or this teal, and I loved the teal. And then the inside is just a really nice kind of feather and fan print. Very gorgeous, with her Pineapple House logo on the inside. And in here is what I hope will come as no surprise to anybody, my Elephants project, which has not seen the light of day since 2018, and the last time that I really worked on it was in 2017. This one is high on my list to finish in the coming months. So this will be making a comeback maybe November. So that's that. Love that. Okay, this is something that I got a long time ago, but I just never showed it to you guys because I misplaced it for a while. And so I'll just show it to you very quickly. This is a 46 count linen from Victorian Motto. This is the fabric that she dyed for Eliza Bell Cox. And so it's a 46 count in a yellowy neutral that's getting completely washed out because we're in the late afternoon hour here. But it's lovely. It's really gorgeous. So I came across this because Beth Ann was picking up the, in a D-stash, she was getting the chart and the Victorian Motto threads for Eliza Bell Cox. But she was not going to stitch on 46 count. And so she asked me, she was like, hey, would you be interested in that? And I said, heck yes. I will take some sampler friendly 46 count linen. It's beautiful. So I misplaced that for a while and I just thought I would show it to you. In my last update video, we were leading up to the next 24 hours of cross stitch marathon, and I was also really interested in doing a new start for Christmas in July, and I thought that I might coincide those over the same weekend to work on a Christmas design on the 24th, 25th, and 26th, which is also the dates of the 24 hours of cross stitch marathon. So I placed this order with 1-2-3 Stitch, and it didn't get to me until August 1st. So yeah, that didn't happen. So I picked up a piece of 32 count Belfast linen in cream from Zweigart, and I also got The Night Before Christmas by Joan Elliott. And I was thinking, you know, I could do this to double dip with Joan Elliott July and with Christmas in July. And so I could do this for that. I love this design. It's really pretty. And so that could work on this. And then I also got the Petite Treasure Braid. This calls for a Krynic, but I like PTB, so I got that. Before this arrived, so I placed the order, and then about 12 minutes later I went, you know, I think I want to stitch the Kooler Design Studio Night Before Christmas like I talked about in my video. So that's probably what I'm going to do is stitch the Kooler Design version of this rather than this one. And so you might expect to see this in a giveaway. You might. Because I don't know that I'll stitch 2 Night Before Christmas designs. I just really like the aesthetic of the Kooler Design Studio samplers. They're really pretty. So, and then I picked up the next in the My Garden Journal series. As I told you guys, I'm collecting these and would like to get them started before the end of the year. So there's that. Okay, up next are a few color and cotton things. The first is something that you will have seen all over the place already, so I won't show it for too long. This is the fabric of the month from July, and this is pearwood. I keep wanting to call it peachwood, but it's pearwood. It does have a slight pink hue, but I'll be honest, it's not that pink. It's more tan. Isn't that funny? What's that fabric from Picture This Plus? Rosewood? That always shows up tan, but it's pink. And this is more tan and showing up pink. Beats me. Anyway, so my subscription is an every other month subscription, and I do the 40 count Newcastle linen in a fat quarter. Yeah, it's not that pink. It's a pretty brown. It's and this is the Neutrals Club that she offers. Not really. Okay. Let that be. And these are threads of the month, I think, from July. Yes, these are July's threads, so I'm not even going to pull them out of the packages. But they are gorgeous. I get both the primitive threads and the all colors. Is that what she calls it? Yes, the all colors. So gorgeousness in there. And I think there's a couple of double ups, which I'm always here for. It makes it a lot easier to kit up the bigger projects with those threads when I know that I've got an additional skein to play with. Okay, the last thing that I have to show you is a chart. I tried so hard to resist this. I tried so hard. And I don't know, but something in me snapped. And I was like, I have to stitch this series. It's so silly, but I need to stitch this series. I've been able to avoid the majority of the chalk projects. Hands-on design, Real Housewives. I haven't really dipped my toe into the chalk designs. But this one just got me. I think I'm feeling fall. I think I'm in the mood for some fall stitching, so maybe that's why. I'm in the mood for fall. Stop there. But fall stitching sounds really good, so maybe that's what the draw is. The other thing is that the other hands-on design autumn chalk designs feature blue pumpkins, and I love me some blue pumpkins, but I can't have an orange pumpkin and a blue pumpkin together because that's very UVA. It's not my thing. It's so silly. And this one doesn't have any blue pumpkins, so I can do that. Anyway, don't mind my eccentricities. So yeah, I had to pick this up. And I signed up for the auto ship through 3L Threads, so she will invoice and send me the other 3. One of these was featured in a magazine and is going to be recharted or just made available. I don't know things about this. Oh. It says here right on the back. Winter was in the 2018 Keepsakes calendar, and she's designing a new one. So we'll get a new winter this winter. So very cool. You guys know I love Kathy Haberman. She's a Hokie. Anyway, okay, so yeah, that's it for the haul, and that's it for the things that I have to talk about today. I appreciate you guys for hanging out and waiting ever so patiently for me to finally put out another video. Appreciate you for that. If y'all could do me a favor and just continue to wear your mask, that would be swell. It would be really great. We have to be safe. We have to be healthy. We have to kick this thing. If you are a parent or an educator in the United States, then my whole heart goes out to you. I mean, this is just a very strange place that we're in, and I can't imagine how hard this is as a parent of a kid trying to figure out what's best and also how to navigate that. And I also can't imagine the difficulties that it is to be an educator right now. If you're teaching in school or virtually, there's just so many difficulties, and yeah, big, huge shout out to teachers and educators and parents. No matter what decision you make that's best for you and your family, big props, because it would be intense. It'd be an intense decision. So yeah, if we could all just like wear our masks and like just eradicate this thing, or do our best to beat the curve back, so that the next generation survives, and so that we can do our part here until a vaccine is developed and safe. That would be great. If we could just do that, that would be really great. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Thanks everybody so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support of me and my channel. I hope that everybody's doing well. I hope that you're stitching. As always, now, maybe more than ever, be kind. I'll see you guys in the next one.